will we will be free. For when the rising tide is turned in every London quarter, Parliament comes crashing down with Robert's Rules of Order.
That's what she said.
That's what she said. Good, you're catching on.
Thursday, March 19th. Today.
Is today the 19th?
Yes, it is.
We're on today?
Yes.
We've caught up?
We finally caught up.
But my editing is another story.
Well, yes. But that's between you and the computer.
Yeah. Because
frankly, folks, I don't know what it's going to look like until I see it when she's done. And frankly, there are times I look at it and laugh my ass off.
And Mr. Seebeck doesn't have my editing program, so.
Or her editing prowess either. So.
It's easy.
Yes. Okay.
I have been doing it a long time, but it is easy.
Here is the question. What parliamentary term applies to discussion on the merits of a pending question?
Debate.
A, question. B, discussion. C, debate. Or D, all of the above.
Well, let's go back. That D fucked me up. Let's go back.
What parliamentary term applies? Sorry. You already fucked up while beer even ringing. What parliamentary term applies to discussion on the merits of a pending question?
Okay.
A, question.
No. So I'll go back to my other answer. I don't
B, discussion.
Yeah. Debate.
C, debate.
Debate.
D, all of the above.
Debate.
It's debate.
Yeah.
That's an easy one.
Yeah, it was easy, but
Question is a song by the Moody Blues. But anyway.
So let me see this for the writing part. Yeah, this.
Yeah.
Part with this, the things on it.
The text.
Right.
I told you she's fucked up.
Discussion isn't the question. The question is the question. So that's what's stupid.
Yeah.
Now, discussion. Yeah, it is discussion, but it's debate. People don't like the word debate sometimes.
Technically, and this is the way I've done it when I've chaired meetings in the past, if there's a motion on the floor, it's debate, but if it's not one, it's discussion.
Right.
And I'm a fan. Despite what Robert says about you can only do business when there's a motion on the floor, I'm a big fan of discussing things out before we get to a motion, just to figure out what we're doing and again to make some sense out of it, to arrive at a good point to make a motion.
And in small boards, you can do that.
Yeah.
There doesn't always have to be pending motion.
Right.
But let's get back to that for a second, because this is a quick one. Let's first read
385.
And you're going to read that?
Yeah.
In the meantime, I'm going to get to what I was trying to also bring up.
Find it here. There it is. 385, 2223. Rules governing debate. Debate, rightly understood, is an essential element in the making of rational decisions of consequence by intelligent people.
Yeah. Sorry.
Now, right there, we're in trouble.
That was Tourette's.
No, I don't mean you.
Shit.
I don't mean you. I mean...
Okay. I'm going to pretend to have Tourette's rest to get out of trouble for that one.
Bullshit. Anyway.
Bastard.
Bullshit.
Bitch face.
Butthole, titties, balls, cocksucker.
All right, keep going.
In a deliberative assembly... Yeah, right. This term applies to discussion on the merits of the pending question. That is, whether the proposal under consideration should or should not be agreed to. That is the right of debate is inherent in such an assembly is implied by the word deliberative. Debatability is a characteristic of all main motions and of certain other motions, depending on the parliamentary functions they serve, according to the principle summarized at the end of this section. And from such principles are derived the specific rules stated under Standard Characteristic 5 and 11-37. While the amount of debate on a motion in actual practice will depend on such factors as its importance, how strongly it is contested, etc., every member of the assembly has the right to speak on every debatable motion before it is finally acted on, and subject only to general limitations on debate established by parliamentary law or rules of the body, as explained below, this right cannot be interfered with except by a 2/3 vote.
Okay. So, that was basic. Blah.
Basic blah blah.
But what I wanted to expound upon
Yes.
was, again, small boards,
Yes.
which we had previously, whatever date, I'll put it in notes if I can find it, was about 12. Remember, that about really
Yeah.
got me. And I actually think that should be lessened. 12, just judging from Colorado, Victoria and both Wayne, towards the end of his term, operate under normal rules. And I think it's better for a board of that size.
Yeah.
To me, a small board is like 5 or 6. But anyway, on page 488, small board rules. Informal discussion of a subject is permitted while no motion is pending, which is not normally permitted in non-small board and regular rules. However, there's a motion that will allow you to do that, and it's a motion to consider informally. So that's on page 530. And this is not used often. And I'm not so sure how many people even know it exists.
See, this is where things get a little crazy because you go into what's the definition of a small board versus other types of boards, because it says here you have a small board is about not more than a dozen members present, but our state board is less than a dozen members.
No, it's about 12. It says about 12.
So does our state board qualify as a small board, or does it qualify?
Well, what's
as
the
a
exact
full board?
language again?
In a board meeting where there are not more than about a dozen members present.
It says present. Right. There's always less than a dozen members present.
Right, because there's less than a dozen members
So
of the
it's a
board
small
in the first
board.
place. So technically, our state board is a small board.
Right.
Right.
But we choose to do it a little bit more formally,
Right.
and I think it's better.
Yeah.
I think that.
Because if you wanted to apply the small board rules to the state board, then there's no limit, no motions seconded, no seconds needed, no limit on the number of times the members can speak to a debate.
And they do follow that.
Informal discussion permitted.
They do a hybrid.
A vote can be taken without a motion having been introduced, which I personally can't stand. Unless agreed to by unanimous consent, however, all proposed actions must be approved by vote under the same rules as in larger meetings, except that the chairman need not rise. Well, nobody does that anyway, and we're sitting down all the time. So, and the chair can vote on all questions, yeah.
So on page 530, you can move for informal consideration. It says it's suited to small meetings of ordinary societies. We do that sometimes.
Informal consideration. The committee of the whole, one of my favorite things in Robert's Rules in general, because, be honest, folks, it is a tremendously useful tool.
But they say here, committee of the whole is for large assemblies and informal consideration, even though it's the same thing, it's just different terminology.
Which is kind of dumb, because it's
for, like, the LNC will do informal
yeah.
discussions.
Yeah.
And it basically just turns it into, for that item, like a small board.
I introduced this to the California board when we were trying to come up with a convention site back in 2010, because we had multiple places to choose from. And I literally said, okay guys, we're going to put this piece into play. It's perfectly legit under Robert's Rules, and we're going to come up with an answer, because we're going to talk it out using this ability. And sure enough, we went through it. Everybody got their say. We went round robin around the room. We had some horse trading of ideas going on. By the time it was done, we had a convention site picked out and done by unanimous vote. And because our state chair was not present for this meeting because of a family thing, when he heard about it, he was astonished. He's like, how in the hell did you get everybody to agree?
Well, most people don't understand
just
committee
talking.
of the whole.
Yeah.
That's another one of those.
I first heard about it because it was used to great effect in the original Constitutional Convention back in Philadelphia.
So, in informal consideration, if you're not a small board, it says on page 540, when it's desired to consider a question informally, a member makes this motion. I move that the question be considered informally. It's a variation of the motion to commit, because what you are basically doing is moving into a committee of the whole.
You're committing it to a committee, but the committee that you're committing it to is everybody
It's the people
present.
that's there.
Right.
This is a variation of the motion to commit and can be debated only as to the desirability of considering informally. And then the chair announces. And it says the informal aspect applies only to the number of speeches allowed on the main question and its amendments. All votes are formal, and any other motion, blah, blah. You can still limit items. Limit the... You can move by 2/3 vote to limit the number of speeches, or whatever. But before the main question is disposed of, you can move back into formal.
Right.
Right.
The way we tended to use it was we'd use the informal discussion to discuss the issue without limitation, not necessarily amend anything, but the idea was to get a general feel of where everybody was headed with this, and then we'd go back into formal proceedings and then make any amendments and go from there. So we use it as a discussion group more than an actual a committee to tweak, because theoretically speaking, if you make an amendment to a motion in a committee of the whole or informal discussion group, you then have that becomes a recommendation to go back, that's reported back out of the committee. It's
reported out, right.
To the formal body and becomes a main motion anyway. So it's really a function of, do you amend it in the committee and then make a recommendation out as the main motion, or do you just bring it back out of the committee and make them the amendments as the main body anyway? It's 6 of one, half dozen of the other in reality.
Now, something I misunderstood that I just learned right now as I'm reading this. It still, though, requires a pending question.
Yes.
And that isn't really what I was looking for. Because the way I've seen it used is when there really isn't a pending question. It's more like, I may want to bring a resolution, but I'd like to get the sense of the body type thing. So it referred me to pages 34 through 35. Let me see what it says here. This is all about motions.
Making a motion.
Okay, under parliamentary procedure, strictly speaking, discussion of any subject is permitted only with reference to a pending motion. A motion can be prefaced by a few words of explanation.
See, this is the one area where Roberts and I totally disagree, because they're taking the thing of, you got to have a motion to do something.
Right.
And my reaction is, you don't need a motion to talk about something, no matter what the hell's going on.
But it says, it's giving me another page, for a member to begin to discuss a matter while no question is pending without promptly leading to a motion implies an unusual circumstance and requires permission of the assembly. See page 299. So let's see what page.
See, I disagree with that, because to me that's normal, not unusual.
299. It's normal in a well-functioning society that gets along with each other.
I would say it's normal if you have advance notice of what you're talking about.
But in contentious societies, it's...
And we're contentious, that's for sure.
Let's see.
299. Okay.
So it would be a request for a privilege.
Yeah. When a member desires to make a request not covered by one of the 4 types explained above, which was something else, as for an example, request to address remarks or make he rises, addresses the chair, unties the knot in his tongue, that's me, and as soon as he catches the presiding officer's attention, hey, you! States his request. Although he does not have to wait for recognition and can make his request even though another member has been assigned the floor, you should never interrupt a member speaking unless it's sure the urgency justifies it. Generally, such matters are settled by unanimous consent or informally, but if there is an objection, a motion can be made to grant the request. If an explanation is required, it can be requested or given, but this must not extend into debate. The request should be treated as to interrupt the proceedings as little as is consistent with the demands of justice.
So, but actually, I like that last sentence, because I get mocked a lot by certain groups. Mocked isn't the right word, but it might be.
Meanwhile, with the Hall of Justice.
I don't know the right. Where I had said, yes, okay, we have the rules, but to me there's an underlying philosophy above it. And it is the philosophy of equity and justice.
Yeah.
And that's to the lens that I interpret everything through. And I think these little sentences like that tell me I'm right.
See, the area I disagree with Roberts on this is the idea, as I said before, is the idea that you have to have emotion to do anything. I'm sorry, but you don't need emotion to do a lot of things. And just to bring up a topic for discussion, you don't need to have emotion.
Well, you don't if you get permission from the body.
Well, see, that's the thing, is that, if you're prefacing a topic by having, say, we need to bring us some background on this to understand what we're talking about here. Basically, if you make a motion to go into an informal discussion, you discuss it, and everybody agrees to it, there's no point in the motion in the first place, you just discuss it anyway.
But then it's without objection.
Yeah.
You're
But if
basically
somebody
getting your privilege without objection.
Yeah, but by the same token, if somebody objects, well, first of all, you're wondering why the hell would they object to it?
Because you're in an unhealthy, contentious body.
Right. But for the general part, it's better from I've found from running these things to use the prefacing thing to explain what the hell's going on, what's got to be addressed, and to go into lay the foundation to go for what needs to be dealt with, however it's dealt with.
Mm-hmm. We agree, and I actually think Roberts agrees, because I think it does assume that normally all these things, it'll be without objection. And I think the procedure it's giving is for when there is objection, when there's that guy.
Well, to me also, it's the idea of emotion is something that requires action versus explaining what the action is supposed to be, or in the general direction what the action should be, is not the same as the motion to do the action.
So you do the request for the privilege of explaining before making a motion.
But so you need to do an action to explain why you want to do an action. That doesn't, that's playing parliamentary foosball for no good reason.
Well, if you have contentious, then that's a good reason. And if it's not contentious, everyone will go, whatever.
Yeah.
Because just like I'd said with some of these conventions I was at, where I was like, and Richard and I said, if they're happy, and everything, then that's all that matters. So, so that's it for, was that you? Yes, that was you. So now it's me?
Yeah.
Now it's me. And we're current.
Favor! Let's hear the opposition side. Like a stubborn donkey's bray. All opposed? You say nay. Opposed! Opposed! The motion carries anyway.